Largest one-day increase in new COVID cases. Hospitals overwhelmed in Arizona, urgently calling for more ICU nurses. An outbreak at one Jacksonville bar infecting more than a dozen people. The big surge in the South, the governor of Texas warning bars that don't follow the rules could lose their liquor license, while officials in Tulsa worry about President Trump's upcoming rally being the perfect storm to spread the virus, and a potential breakthrough treatment that could help save the most severe coronavirus patients.
Blocking Bolton. The Trump administration suing its former national security advisor, John Bolton, trying to stop publication of his highly anticipated memoir, claiming it would harm national security.
I will consider every conversation with me as president highly classified.
Bolton's team firing back, a battle that could head to the Supreme Court.
President Trump signing an executive order on police reform with new guidance on chokeholds, but no outright ban. The president saying Americans demand law and order.
Some of them don't even know that's what they want, but that's what they want.
This after he met with the families of police shooting victims, including Ahmaud Arbery. But why all opted out of that photo op in the Rose Garden.
Wildfire emergency, the biggest fire in the country this year. The fire in Arizona scorching more than 100 square miles. Hot, dry conditions fueling the flames, forcing hundreds from their homes and shutting down roads. The blaze seen from 23,000 miles in space. Ginger is tracking the latest.
And ABC News exclusive, one-on-one with New York Governor Andrew Cuomo, how he's leading his hard-hit state in the fight against coronavirus.
Do you have an idea of what you think or where we might be 100 days from now?
The game plan for reopening.
Will New York schools be open in the fall?
The Black Lives Matter movement and his calls for police reforms.
The relationship between the police and the community is frayed or broken. This was long overdue. It's about making change.
His clashes with President Trump, and is a presidential run in his future.
Why not think about something grander, bigger, presidential?
Live in Times Square, this is Good Morning America.
Good morning, America. It's good to be with you on this very busy Wednesday.
It sure is. And Amy, you had a busy day yesterday, sitting down with New York Governor Andrew Cuomo, covering everything from the coronavirus pandemic to reopening schools and the protests sweeping the nation, calling for change.
That's right. We covered a lot of territory. We also talked about the extreme praise and criticism he's received as he has led New York, the state that has had more coronavirus cases than any other country in the world, and how he's handled it, what keeps him up at night.
Cannot wait to see your interview. Going to keep me up this morning until it comes on. All right, and as the hard-hit state of New York bounces back, there is an alarming rise in cases in at least 20 states that have eased restrictions. Arizona, Texas, and Florida all reporting their largest one-day increase in new cases. Victor Oquendo is in Miami with more. And Victor, there's a cluster breaking out at a recently reopened bar.
That's right. Good morning, Michael. That bar in Jacksonville Beach forced to shut down after recently reopening. These record numbers leading to the mayor of Miami Beach to hit pause on the reopening plan. So bars and clubs, they are still shut. But the governor of Florida is determined to fully reopen the state, saying Florida is not shutting down.
This morning, record-breaking one-day increases.
It's a different population that is making that curve rise, and it's a younger population. But those people have to realize that they have the propensity to spread it to those that are more vulnerable.
Arizona, Florida, and Texas all reporting their largest one-day increases in new COVID cases. This coming as all three states increase testing and ease restrictions, allowing more businesses to reopen. They are among 20 states that have seen the number of newly reported cases grow over the last 2 weeks, many sprawling across the South. Many workers at an airport in Florida testing positive.
Had a couple cases. They did the contact tracing. They looked over almost 500 workers, 260 people working close together, positive, 52% positivity rate on that one.
South Miami Hospital seeing an uptick in patients over the last 10 days, partly due to people not following safety guidelines.
If we each are wearing masks, then we can help reduce the spread of the virus, and we can keep it contained in a way that we can manage to take care of the people sick enough to need to be hospitalized.
Several Jacksonville Beach bars and restaurants shutting their doors again this week because of a small outbreak. More than a dozen people contracting the virus at just one bar.
We've all been stuck indoors for months, being careful. And then the first night we go out, Murphy's Law, I guess.
Arizona seeing a resurgence too. Hospitals there overwhelmed, urgently calling for more ICU nurses.
It's unmistakable that the reopening of my state of Arizona back on May 15th really did precipitate that rise, the start to this surge.
The governor of Texas warning bars that don't follow the rules could lose their liquor license.
This is necessary to make sure that all of these businesses are following the protocols and standards that have been established for them to follow, standards that were established by doctors, knowing that if the standards were followed, there should not be an increase in the spread of COVID-19. Clearly, the standards are not being followed.
With the president headlining a major rally in Tulsa later this week, health officials are growing increasingly concerned crowds of thousands in close proximity won't follow safety protocols.
In a rally, in any type of large event, masks come off, people sing, they chant, they shout, and when they do that, there's a potential for spread. So while I think it's great that those recommendations are in place.
The Tulsa area seeing an uptick in cases recently, a trend Dr. Dart wants to reverse.
And, we want to flatten the curve. We want to pulverize the curve.
And Governor DeSantis again doubling down, saying that the record numbers are due to increased testing, yet health officials throughout the state will tell you that people who do not follow the proper guidelines, like wearing a mask or following social distancing, are to blame as well. Amy?
All right, Victor, thank you very much. We're going to bring in Dr. Jennifer Ashton now with details of a potential breakthrough treatment for coronavirus. Dr. Jen, thanks for being with us. So tell us more about this study. It involves a low dose of a steroid used to treat seriously ill coronavirus patients.
Exactly, Amy. It is a large clinical trial done in the UK, preliminary data using this old, cheap, and safe steroid, dexamethasone, in patients who are moderately or severely ill with COVID-19. The first trial to show a survival benefit. The authors estimating that 1 death would be prevented for every 8 patients treated with this drug who were on ventilators, 25 patients treated who were on supplemental oxygen. Now, here come the caveats. This data has not been fully released, and it has not been peer-reviewed yet.
And these results seem to contradict, Dr. Jen, earlier reports that steroids could make coronavirus patients worse. So what's different about this medicine?
Here's the thing with steroids, Amy. There's a sweet spot. It's not just about using them. It's about using them at the right time, the right dose, in the right setting. And remember that steroids are powerful anti-inflammatories. That's the theory about how they may be helping in COVID-19. But they can also increase the risk of infection. So clinical studies are still ongoing.
All right, and it's all about that low dosage at this point. Okay, thank you so much, Dr. Jen. We appreciate your expertise. Whit.
Amy, now to the Trump administration going to court to block publication of former National Security Advisor John Bolton's tell-all memoir. This is due out next week. The Justice Department claiming it's full of classified information that will harm national security. Our Chief Justice correspondent Pierre Thomas joins us from Washington with more. Pierre, good morning.
Good morning. Bolton's book is scheduled to be released in just 6 days, but now the Justice Department is attempting to delay that planned publication, setting the stage for an intense legal fight involving the First Amendment and national security. Filed just last night, Justice Department attorneys argue in an emergency lawsuit that Bolton's book, The Room Where It Happened, should be stopped from publication because it appears to contain classified information, echoing a threat from President Trump.
I will consider every conversation with me as president highly classified. If the book gets out, he's broken the law, and I would think that he would have criminal problems.
The Justice Department claims it's not seeking to censor any legitimate aspect of Bolton's manuscript, but is simply trying to get him to complete a review that would remove any classified material.
What we were doing was try to get him to complete the clearance process.
The book by Trump's former national security advisor is expected to address efforts by the president to pressure Ukraine to investigate Vice President Biden and his son, and to offer insight into that critical question of whether the Trump administration was truly trying to use millions in military assistance for the president's political gain. Bolton's publisher Simon & Schuster releasing a statement last night calling the Justice Department's action the latest in a long-running series of efforts to quash publication of a book it deems unflattering to the president. DOJ also requests that proceeds from the book be held in a trust for the U.S. government if Bolton publishes without getting government clearance. Bolton's attorney Chuck Cooper telling ABC News last night he's reviewing the Justice Department's filing and will respond in due course. An epic battle underway with the book's immediate release possibly in jeopardy. Whit?
All right, Pierre, thanks to you. Also, our Martha Raddatz has the first interview with John Bolton on his memoir in a one-hour special Sunday night, 9 p.m. Eastern, right here on ABC. Michael?
All right, thank you, Whit. More now on President Trump addressing the issue of police violence, signing an executive order on police reform, and meeting with several families whose loved ones were killed by police officers. Senior White House correspondent Cecilia Vega has more in Washington. Good morning, Cecilia.
Hey, Michael, good morning to you. The president says he's taking historic action with this order. He calls these standards the highest and the strongest on earth. And while many of those grieving families say they are thankful for some movement on this front, they're calling the president's order a baby step.
In the Rose Garden from President Trump, a message of law and order.
Americans want law and order. They demand law and order. They may not say it. They may not be talking about it, but that's what they want. Some of them don't even know that's what they want, but that's what they want.
There, he signed a policing plan that he said was meant to promote unity for all people, but he did it surrounded by uniformed law enforcement, most of them white. The president making no mention of racism in policing. Instead, he said police misconduct boils down to a few bad apples.
Nobody wants to get rid of them more than the overwhelming number of really good and great police officers.
The executive order encourages local departments to follow best practices on use of force and de-escalation, and to report misconduct to a national registry. And even though there is no outright ban on chokeholds, he suggested there was.
Chokeholds will be banned, except if an officer's life is at risk.
Critics saying it amounts to a Band-Aid on a bullet wound.
This is a federal photo op, not a federal response.
Before the event, the president met privately with several families whose loved ones were killed by police, including Botham John, killed while eating ice cream in his Dallas home by an officer who claimed she thought she was in her own apartment.
We expressed a lot more could have been done. I mean, we're thankful for anything at this point, but we still have a very long way to go.
And the mother of Ahmaud Arbery, who was gunned down while jogging in Georgia.
I would like change to be implemented by the passing of Ahmaud, because Ahmaud didn't have to leave the way that he left. I think that we should continue to fight and stand together for change.
And while the president made a promise directly to those grieving families,
your loved ones will not have died in vain.
None were present for the photo op after.
Now, the White House says the decision was mutual, that neither side wanted the families to be in that photo op, but the meeting between President Trump and those families, it's being described as emotional. Arbery's mother is calling the president compassionate. And now this morning on Capitol Hill, Amy, there are competing plans, but right now it's a stalemate between both parties.
All right, Cecilia, thank you very much. Well, now to that wildfire emergency in the West. 36 fires are raging this morning in 9 states with red flag warnings across the region. The bushfire in Arizona, the largest in the nation right now, forcing hundreds of people from their homes. Ginger is tracking all the latest for us. Good morning, Ginger.
Good morning, Amy. Hard to believe that there are families this morning just north of Phoenix waking up outside of their homes in shelters. And from Texas to Alaska, dozens of large wildfires. But yes, that biggest one in the nation, more than 64,000 acres burning. The images you're seeing there, that's the bushfire. It is 0% contained. Several communities just northeast of Phoenix have been evacuated. The danger, they're calling it imminent and life-threatening. Then in California, the Avila fire, now 50% contained. You've got 300 firefighters working on that one. The dense vegetation there they're going to have to fight through, and really difficult conditions. Let's bring it to the satellite image that I have to show you. And this one shows you Phoenix and shows you 23,000 miles up, that satellite in space, seeing those flames and the smoke. Now, the conditions are not only not good today with red flag warnings from southeastern Arizona right through Colorado, western Kansas, but the pattern setting up to not just be windy and dry, but hot too. Amy?
Wow, that is so unfortunate, Ginger. We're going to also now, in connection with California's deadly Camp Fire in 2018, talk about the nation's largest utility company because they are pleading guilty to 84 counts of involuntary manslaughter. PG&E has admitted its neglected equipment ignited that fire. The inferno was the deadliest fire in California history. The company will pay a maximum fine of $3.5 million, but it's also paying more than $25 billion in settlements for that fire and others in 2017. Whit.
Amy, now to the charges in the shooting death of that federal officer killed in Oakland last month during a night of unrest in the George Floyd protests. An Air Force sergeant now charged, and prosecutors say he and an accomplice used the protest as cover in their plan to target law enforcement. Matt Gutman has the latest.
They came to Oakland to kill cops.
As thousands thronged Oakland on May 29th, clamoring for justice, authorities say Stephen Carrillo and another alleged white supremacist came for a very different reason. The Department of Justice revealing the pair identified as part of the Boogaloo movement with the intent of igniting a race war.
The Boogaloo term is used by extremists to reference a violent uprising or impending civil war in the United States.
Authorities say Carrillo, an Air Force sergeant, and Robert Justice Jr. drove this white van to the federal courthouse, opening fire from the side door and killing federal officer Patrick Underwood and wounding another officer. A week later, responding to the FBI's request for help, a witness spotted the van 70 miles away near Santa Cruz, California.
The witness observed what appeared to be ammunition, firearms, and bomb-making equipment in the van.
Police swarmed. A shootout ensued.
Why is the van just took out fire? He was just hit by the vehicle.
And another officer, Santa Cruz Sheriff Sergeant Damon Gutzwiller, was killed. 2 other officers wounded. Carrillo was on the run, carjacking vehicles.
Somebody please come help!
That cry for help from Good Samaritans who'd managed to tackle him. And right there, what authorities say was the homemade AR-style rifle he had used. As he was led away, Carrillo yells,
"This is what I came to fight. I'm sick of these
Now, that homemade AR-style rifle is often referred to as a ghost gun. That's because you can buy the parts legally online and assemble it at home. There's no waiting period. There's no background check. And because you're assembling it at home, there's no serial number, which means it's untraceable. And it's one reason that federal authorities here say that an increasing number of felons and militia types are using these weapons. Whit.
Really an alarming case. Matt Gutman for us. Thank you. Michael?
I'm going to turn to some good news now, Whit. Sports fans, get ready for Game, Set, Match. The U.S. Open has been given the go-ahead to begin on August 31st in Queens, New York. The governor approving the date with new safety measures and no fans in the stands. And another big summer staple in New York is getting the green light as well. Nathan's annual hot dog eating contest will take place on the 4th of July weekend.
How do you do that with a mask, though?
Well, you know what? No fans at the event, so they can space them out, which is probably better because who likes to eat in front of people anyway? But fans can watch both of these intense competitions from home, of course, and I'm pretty sure it may be the best ratings ever for the hot dog eating contest.
Exactly. All right. We are also following a lot of other headlines this morning, including my ABC News exclusive with New York Governor Andrew Cuomo, what he expects for the next 100 days in this coronavirus crisis. But first, let's go back to Ginger.
And we'll get straight to the UV index forecast, sponsored by Chase.
When you think of a bank, you think of people in a place. But when you have the Chase mobile app, your bank can be virtually any place. So when you get a check, you can deposit it from here. And you can see your transactions and check your balance from here. You can detect suspicious activity on your account from here. And you can pay your friends back from here. So when someone asks you, where's your bank? You can tell them, here's my bank. Or, here's my bank. Or, here's my bank. Because if you download and use the Chase mobile app, your bank is virtually any place. So visit chase.com/mobile.
In fact, some on-off showers today, getting a little steady by the afternoon hours. 73 degrees, your high temperature today, quite cool. So along with the umbrella, you're going to need the jacket today, but not by the end of the week. Temperatures going up. In fact, by Sunday, even this weekend, close to 90 degrees with shower and thunderstorm chances continuing. So your Thursday, your Friday, fairly soggy. Chances a little less for the weekend, but still there with higher humidity and those higher temperatures.
Stay there. We'll be right back.
Once weekly Ozempic is helping many people with type 2 diabetes like James lower their blood sugar. A majority of adults who took Ozempic reached an A1C under 7 and maintained it.
Here's your